Hey YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video, I've got the Mustang back in the shop, and we are going to be repairing it today. So let's get into it. Now, if you came here for my last video on diagnosing this car, then you probably already know the first thing that I'll be doing to repair it, and that is replacing these little supercharger fans. Okay, so that is a little auxiliary fan for the supercharger system. And I actually spent quite a bit of time searching all over the internet trying to find replacement ones of these. And I just searched for the part number and then the manufacturer name, which is this Spal or Spal, or not sure. I'm not really familiar with this brand, but they seem to be popular in some off-roading applications. Anyway, I couldn't find these. I found a bunch of websites that had these exact fans listed, but they were out of stock everywhere. Aside from, of course, one website, and that was the factory Saleen website. And both of these guys were 400 bucks plus shipping. And the customer was like, heck no. He's trying to save money right now. He's actually trying to sell this car because he needs to make money right now for a business venture. And I support him in that. But I mean, what am I supposed to do? We can't move forward if we can't replace the fan. So I went ahead and found these on Amazon, $20. As opposed to $200 each. And these meet or exceed all of the same specs as the original fan. They're also a 12-volt fan. They're going to pull the same amount of amps as the original fan. It's a pull style fan. You can see that we've got a different amount of fins, but it's still supposedly, these things still pull actually more air. Will these last as long? I'm not sure. Will we check back in 25 years? No, we won't. We're just gonna try. Now you can see that they're slightly different size. We've got some room in there, so I'm just gonna try to install these and see what we can do. Now, I never actually drove the car and ran the engine long enough and just saw what we were getting for actual cooling with these fans, but I'm guessing with the bearing noise that they're making, I'm sure that these weren't operating at maximum capacity, so I really don't have a great way of comparing these side by side for their performance, but we're gonna see what these do. So see this? Look at all this room we have width-wise. Those two fans were kind of just over here. They weren't even taking up the whole thing. So this might even be better. I don't know. All right, I decided that before I install these, I'm just gonna double check and make sure that this is a pull style fan. Super easy to do. Oh yeah. Oh, it's pulling. And it comes with this mounting kit right here, but of course it doesn't give you any instructions. So what we're gonna do is feed the zip tie through like so, this little tie here. And then on either side of the actual radiator portion itself, we're gonna use these little pads. One here, then radiator, then another one of these, then a spring, and lastly, this little cap. So in this case, I've got them through the second hole there because that's where it's gonna line up. And then I'm gonna push the ends just through the little fins, just in between a couple little fins, not damage anything. Nice. And I got both the bottom ones installed. So let's just go over these little guys. So we've got the adhesive side. I'm going to poke through that. And the adhesive side is facing the little radiator. Then we have our little spring, which goes like so. And then our little nut. Pull that nice and snug, but not too tight, right? There we go. And then just trim the excess. And there they are from the front. It looks a little tacky, but I guess then again, so does this sub radiator, and you know, we're gonna look that closely at it, are you? I got the other one installed too, and I actually spaced this one a little further away because it hangs down. It's that lip there, so I could not put it here where this little cross brace thing was, but that's all right because I think spacing them out a little more evenly is a good idea. So now the next thing I gotta do is adapt these connectors because these obviously are not the same as these factory connectors, but these ones I'm seeing a lot of corrosion in there. They're not really looking that good. So I might wanna cut this wire back a little bit and see if I can find where it gets a little bit cleaner and then put on some new. And this one, I didn't even realize this one just broke clean off of there. Nasty. Thankfully, I have a kit that has all the proper ends here, and I'm using the ones to match the new fans rather than match the factory harness just because those ones are new. I'd rather just replace 2 than replace 4, if that makes sense. So we've got a nice looking crimp there. I'll put my little plastic thingy over it. So there's one. All right, and this guy goes in there like that, and then this little plastic booty goes over that, so they're all protected. Nice. All right, let's do the other one. Heck yeah. First fan is done. Check it out. We got both of those wired in now, and everything here is looking good. But one thing that's not looking too good that I just noticed is like, what the heck is going on here? I don't really know what this is, but I'm gonna undo this and I'm gonna fix that. This looks like it's supposed to be a block ground. That someone tried to solder back together. Let's just crimp it or make a new one. All right, so you can see this wire here is going to that oil pressure sending unit. So it looks like it just got repaired maybe. So I just removed the motor mount bolt that was holding on that ground strap, and I cut off all the bad wiring. And I'm thinking I can pull this back far enough and just put on a new terminal end here, crimp on a new one, and then just reroute it slightly and put it right back where it belongs. And you can see that I snipped the oil pressure sending unit wire there. I'm just going to make it the appropriate length. And bad grounds can actually cause a lot of issues. And apparently, prior to dropping it off and having the overheating issue, the owner did say that it was running like crap. I have not experienced it running like crap. It has run absolutely phenomenally for me every time that I've taken it on a test drive. It has been a joy to test drive. So I don't know what he's talking about, but a bad ground could certainly cause that issue. I love this hydraulic crimping tool. Not pretty, but it gets the job done. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Yep, it was just as easy said as done. Just rerouted that ground wire and just snipped off the bad part, and that's it. And then I made this oil pressure sender wire a reasonable length, so it's not going to get caught on anything and cause any issues. All right, now moving on to the next thing. The customer is concerned that there is a transmission issue going on. On the test drive, I was able to replicate the gear noise concern that he had. It is a very, very loud, whiny transmission. And he thinks that there's a clutch issue as well. Every now and then it felt like a little funky, but I did definitely hear the whining noise. So in the spirit of keeping with the easy, stupid, simple stuff first, I'm just gonna start by draining out the fluid and inspecting the fluid in this transmission, because this, I just learned, manual transmission actually takes ATF. I know, and that surprised me. So I'm wondering if maybe there is the proper fluid in here, or maybe someone in the past put the wrong fluid in here. So I'm gonna start by draining the fluid and checking it out. Well, dang, they make it so easy you can't possibly fail. We got the drain plug for the transmission right here underneath the word drain. And then we can see the fill plug there right above it. And we always want to loosen the fill plug first, just in case it's stripped or something. You never want to be in a situation where you've drained all the fluid out and you can't get new fluid back in. So interesting, looks like we just have a little 3/8 inch drive going on. So grab a breaker bar. I just looked over and saw the starter wire looks the same as that ground wire. What the heck? Did they just like cut the wires? Ugh, when they pulled this engine? Yes, this is not the original engine. The engine has been replaced, which is kind of crazy for how low the mileage is on this thing, but I'm guessing that if you own a car like this, you're probably stomping on it all the time. Make those sick noises. I mean, I get it. All right, so I got the fill plug loose. So that's what it looks like, that style, a little fitting. Smells funky. Doesn't smell like ATF. Now I've got my fluid recovery container ready to go, so I can also measure and just verify that the right amount of fluid is in here. And also, you know, we haven't sold the customer on the flush yet. So, or the drain and fill. So if we find out that everything is great and it's got the right fluid in there and it looks clean, then probably won't waste the customer's money because he's on a budget. Aren't we all on a freaking budget these days though? Tell me about it. I am budgeting like crazy right now because I am actually building my own shop. That's right, people. No more renting for me. Oh, I love this space though. This space has served me well. This has really served me well. All right, let's see what we got. Oh! Oh my God, back to basics. First of all, it smells terribly burnt. It's extremely sparkly. Oh my God. I got 5 quarts. No, I got 6 quarts because I think the capacity was like 5 and change. I'll have to like look it up. But you guys, it's almost drained out in that. Well, no wonder! Okay, well, clearly this fluid isn't going back in, but I'm glad that I kept this. I'm going to measure it and just let the customer know. That's probably the gear noise, though. Oh my gosh, look how sparkly it is. This poor transmission. It's a new day. I let this thing drain all night just for fun. And that's a very fair assessment of the fluid that was in there. There is not much. So for side-by-side comparison, I did actually look up the fluid specs. Oh, go me. And even though the best way, I mean, it all varies. This is a Tremec T45 transmission, and these take about 3.3 quarts. 3.3 quarts! Yeah! Oh. So I'm gonna do a side-by-side right now of the fluid that came out versus the amount of fluid that should be in there. And you can see that's probably our issue. That's a huge difference, man. This poor transmission, I certainly hope that it wasn't driven for too long. But I mean, of course, the exact amount will vary from transmission to transmission because there are like, I guess, slight differences between the T45 from different models they're in. So we'll see how much fluid this actually takes. I hope that this actually solves the gear whine issue. That would be what an easy problem to solve if that's the case. And it is very weird putting ATF in a manual transmission, but then again, it's also very weird having a Ford in the shop. So what you gonna do? I'm just gonna pump it in with my little hand pump here. And also, you know, for the longest time, I thought it was Mercon 5, because it's Dextron 3, right? But apparently it's Mercon V. Psh, who knew? Of course, like always, I'm sure I'm just gonna end up with a bunch of people in the comments telling me that I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't care, people. All I care is that it's the right fluid. Okay, and much like other manual transmissions, thank goodness, I'm just gonna pump this in the fill hole until it is full, until it starts overflowing. And unfortunately, I'm just using this little hand pump because I do not really use Mercon fluid around these parts. So I only have one fluid transfer pump, and that is for my Toyota WS only. So we're gonna get a hand workout today. Ooh, I see the issue, and it is not good. It is not good at all because I have not finished filling up the transmission. However, we have some drips on the floor here, and they are not coming from where we want them to come from. So, all right, I'm actually, since this is fresh fluid, I'm gonna save all this. I'm gonna drain it back out. Fluid is drained. Well, I know that the customer is not gonna be stoked. If he did not wanna pay $400 for fans, that I know for sure that he is not gonna wanna pay to drop this transmission. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna peek my favorite tool in there, my bore scope, and just take a look at what is leaking and what's going on, just in case I might be able to give a better estimate of the price that it could be. I mean, you can't sell a car with a busted transmission or leaking transmission fluid. I mean, you can, but not for what he wants to get for it.
So this right here is the actual footage that I downloaded from the bore scope. And I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like a big crack in the bell housing right there. Seriously, how on earth did this happen? So I have a couple ideas of how to proceed here. We can either replace the entire transmission, replace the bell housing, or we repair the bell housing. Hey, if anyone has a Tremec T45 for sale, please let me know in the comments. But seriously, how helpful is a bore scope in a situation like this? I mean, being able to see the problem without removing a single bolt or wasting any time is priceless. I mean, what if the customer declined any further repairs? I mean, any work that I would have done to pull the transmission out would have been for free, and then putting it back to the way that it was, also free. Now, either way, I'm going to have to talk to the customer about what I discovered, discuss the budget, and I will hopefully be showing you the solution and the repair in the next part of this video. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this car, this little branch out from Toyota Land. All right, I will see you in my next video. Bye.